Welcome back to the Trailheads podcast. In today's expedition for career success, we'll be talking to Joseph Banks, Director of the Career Design Center here at USU. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, no problem. It's assistant director, by the way.
Oh, assistant director, yes.
Perfect. Give me a promotion in my boss.
Yeah. No problem. We'll get that set up for you. Well, I know that we've got to know you a little bit in just the time that we've been, setting up to do this podcast. But a lot of our listeners have not had a chance to get to know you unless they've been to the Career Design Center recently. So I guess would you give us a quick couple minute just kind of overview of you and kind of where you just something about you maybe that our listeners might find interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what might be interesting, but at least about my background and stuff. I majored in political science in my undergrad, and then also got a master's in business administration for graduate school. In between that, I actually lived in Japan for about 3 years, teaching English to high school students.
Very
that was
cool.
kind of my first time of being in education itself before kind of coming back when I got back to the States, and just different things that I did there was more of working with internships, experiential learning. And that's kind of what I really like about my job, is helping people find experiences, help people find things that help them define what they want to do for a career without having to wait until, after you graduate. And you're like, oh, well, maybe I won't, the actual work is not quite as fun as the research inside of things are. So those are a few of the things that I like with my background and stuff.
Very cool, very cool.
Nice. Yeah. And could you tell us a little bit more about your specific career path, like what jobs you've held since you're getting your undergraduate degree in political science and then, your master's in business administration? Like how has that led you to where you are now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I said, after I did my undergraduate, I worked in Japan off of a thing called the JET program. Japan Exchange and Teaching Program was basically working in the actual high schools, working for the Board of Education in Japan.
Okay.
And that was kind of interesting just because in fact, a lot of my experiences goes around like international and global issues and multicultural and such. And so that was like my first one where I got to live abroad and actually work with people and see how different cultures interact and such. After I did my graduate program, I worked over at a law school in Southern California. And I was trying to help people find different externships, court experiences and things, while also trying to help them with their survey data and using a lot of like Excel and those tools at the same time. That was for just a short term until I got my position the first time up at Utah State University, working for the Huntsman School of Business in there as an internship coordinator. And so that was a great chance to work with a bunch of different companies, trying to help place students and help students find different internship opportunities for them. And it was a lot of fun actually, just trying to get to learn more about companies, get to see what kind of businesses they do and how students can help them. I really like kind of that middleman.
Right.
Things where I go, okay, I can help connect you with this opportunity and help you guys succeed that way. I did that for about 5 years before I went to University of California, Riverside. And that's where I got to do a little bit more with international students, and primarily helping international students get certificates as well as getting internships within the community as part of their certificate program. And so, again, got to reach out to a lot more on the local communities there, a lot of the local businesses, and how to help students navigate, especially with international students. They had different visa issues, CPT, OPT, things that hurdles that other students don't usually have to try to get through. But I couldn't really stay away from USU too long, and so there was an opportunity that came up where I could come back, work here up as the assistant director for the Career Design Center. And that was great. In my role now, I work with CHaSS, as well as the Kane College of the Arts as far as like coaching and such goes. But also I get to work with internships through the campus. We've got an experiential learning committee that reaches out to the different internship coordinators, and we try to do some training and stuff for the different internship coordinators throughout the campus and throughout the university there too.
Very cool, very cool. I guess you just kind of talked about it a little bit. One thing we noticed while we were getting to know you a little bit is you have a very diverse background as far as your work, different jobs that you've taken goes. So I guess you talked a little bit about it, but how do you think that has kind of guided you to your current position? Like why you decided to come back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I was trying to think on this, and to be honest, a lot of it comes from working. Like I said, I've got a lot of connections with like international and global and multicultural. That really helped me learn a lot about people in general.
Yeah.
In fact, if anyone has the opportunity to go out and do an international experience, study abroad, or something where it puts you out there, get out outside of your comfort zone, even just living in another community that you're not used to or such, helps you learn a lot about people.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially, I'd say, like the typical stereotypes that people might have. So, for example, in
Right.
Japan, you think people are kind of more quiet and reserved and such. But I know a lot of Japanese friends that are really outgoing, and it makes you realize that people are unique. You know, whether you can't just put them in a bucket or something like that.
Right.
I think that helps me a lot in my job as I'm coaching students to know that students, even I can't just assume what they are just because of their major or just because of their background and such. That it actually takes some time to ask them questions and to get to learn more about what their career goals are, what their personal goals are, and how they're different from other people, to help them find the different paths and opportunities they have.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's especially important to recognize that, every student is different. So just being mindful of the individuality and that different students bring to the table is a really great quality to have, especially working as a career advisor. So along that vein, what advice do you have for any CHaSS students who maybe are in college right now but haven't yet decided on a specific career path?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a couple of things. One, I guess the first one to put people at ease is, don't worry if you don't have your entire career path planned out right now, or even just at graduation.
Well, good.
Yeah, right. A lot of times we feel a lot of pressure, like I've got to know exactly where I'm going to go. And to be honest, hardly anybody really has like the career path that they set out to do in college to where they ended up 20 years ago or so. And so I think that CHaSS in particular helps you develop a lot of the important skills that you need as students to be successful in almost any industry, any area. And so don't feel too much pressure right now, like, I've got to decide. But the other side of that is try to find at least some direction. What area do you want to go into? And then whatever you're doing, make sure you have sort of what we call a bias to action. Yeah. And so when, if you have an opportunity to research, if it's like, okay, but do I get to research a company or do I get to do an internship with the company?
Sure.
Go ahead and do the internship, kind of do the more action. Or if it's like, maybe I can look up job applications or actually apply to these jobs and such.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're doing stuff that will help move you forward, rather than just sitting back and just hoping things will come to you and look for those opportunities.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just taking advantage of opportunities as they come rather than hoping that the universe guides you to stuff just happens. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess part of that is you talked about like building that like those actionable things. Do you think that like is that like a way of building marketable skills that then you could apply to future positions? Would that be a way of finding those? Is because then you end up in like working with people within your major? Do you think that would be something that comes?
Yeah, I mean that is definitely one way to get those marketable skills. And a lot of people try to think, what are those marketable skills, right? Yeah. And so there is actually the NACE, which is an organization of National Associations of Colleges and Employers, and they have a list of what they call basically the core competencies for career readiness. And so those competencies, they include things like communication and even like diversity and inclusion, all these important areas that students should have to be career ready and such. And so those are also the skills that employers are looking for too. And so I think, part of that you'll get through your education. And like I said, CHaSS has a lot, especially the ability to analyze and critique, as well as to do research. If you're reading, there's a lot of reading in many of these programs. And then you have to report, and you're not just reporting, but you have to be able to report in a manner that's clear and succinct.
Sure.
Right.
And I think you get a lot of that in the classroom experience.
Yeah.
But there are also other techniques or other skills that you should make sure that you get. And some of that would be like leadership skills, and also like technology skills. Yeah. And even your own, career and self-development. And so like leadership skills, those are things that you don't necessarily get in the classroom as much as you can get here on campus through joining clubs and through doing volunteer activities, and not just joining the clubs, but actually being an active part of those
participating in the clubs. Sure.
And then I was going to say, at least for like technology, those skills, a lot of times you will, just our world right now is very technology driven. Yeah, even if you plan on just kind of, like helping out the environment or something like that, or doing community service or whatever, and not trying to be in a tech company. There's still a lot of things where you want to have some of that technical knowledge. I mean, even more than just your basic Excel and PowerPoint, but to start, looking at ways that you can analyze data. Maybe you use some very basic data analytics or some basic like Tableau or Power BI or some of those tools that they have. But also like on communication, learn how to do things like, with Adobe products, with video, or even, there's a lot of resources that you guys have right now as students here that disappear once you graduate, right?
Yeah.
So
tuition stops paying for those things, right?
Exactly.
When you don't pay tuition, right?
Yeah. So take advantage of those right now, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's some great advice. And I think lots of students at USU are kind of aware that they need to be using their college years to develop some of those marketable skills, but it can be overwhelming, especially, as a busy college student, living on your own for the first time, overwhelmed with your classes. It can kind of be overwhelming to know where to start building those skills. And I think that the place that you work, the Career Design Center, could really be a useful resource to USU students. So could you talk a little bit about some of the resources that the Career Design Center provides to USU students, and why it would be a good idea for students to take advantage of these resources?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so with the Career Design Center, I mean, some of this stuff has been more of the traditional one-on-one appointments and things where a student can come in with, questions about either exploratory or they're, wanting to get a resume looked at, or even just talk about some plans one-on-one. And I think that's the basic thing that most people think of when they think, okay, I'm going to go to this office and I can talk to somebody about that. But we do a lot more than that too. So, and we're trying to outreach to all students. And so we have a couple of, about a few courses or so that we provide for students. They're just 1 credit courses. USU 1400, which is more on exploratory.
Interesting.
USU 2400, which is like how to prepare for internships and find internships.
Okay.
And then USU 3400 is more about launching your career and such. And so students can, they're just 1 credit online, 7-week things that you can just fit into your schedule or so at any time. And that's a great way to kind of learn those skills and start honing those skills. But we also have as well like an online just open course too. Has similar content in there that students can just sign up. In fact, we've got that, as well as we're developing what's called like a badging process. Students can sort of find a badging path where it'll teach them like resume skills, and then you take a few steps or so, and then it will give you a badge that will go on like your Canvas profile. You can put it on your LinkedIn profile and things like that. That one we should be introducing pretty soon. Sure. And then along with that, we have things like drop-in resume reviews. So if you happen to have a resume or like an interview coming up or something, you just want to stop by our offices for about 10 minutes or so to have somebody look over your resume really quick. Yeah. You don't need like a full appointment yet or something.
Right.
And then we do mock interviews. So if you've got a job interview coming up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say, if you just send us a copy of the job description, your career coach and such, and then we can set it up for you to do a mock interview. We also have like various tools that if you were to go to our website, that you can do all this stuff kind of on your own too as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. I wish I knew about that mock interview resource before the job interview I had last week. That would have been helpful, but
I can think of a couple instances that was I applied recently to the Space Dynamics Lab, and I was totally unprepared for that. So if I'd known that was a thing, I would take advantage of that. It's really useful.
Yeah, it's always good to at least get some practice. And then I think the other main ones that resources we do that are here on campus, we have career fairs and information sessions. So we're out going and trying to recruit employers to help bring in to talk to our students and provide jobs and such for them.
So it'll be beneficial for them as well as the students.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's that. Or you can even go on Handshake, and that's our typical job posting site. So make sure to look on there for any jobs, internships, student employment, all that.
I guess off of what you were saying,
Yeah.
if let's say if I wanted to go and set up an appointment with the Career Center, you said that sometimes you don't need an appointment. Like, what would the process be if I wanted, like, let's say a one-on-one job coach interview session? I guess?
Yeah, so a couple of ways to get that. So you want to set up an appointment there, and you can either come into our office, to our front desk, and just set up an appointment that way.
Sure.
Or if you're to go online to our website, there's a spot that says Find Your Career Coach, and that will pull up once you find, depending on what your major is, because all our coaches are right now divided up by certain colleges themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
You go to those, and they'll have our schedule outlined for you, using the same kind of scheduling services that the advisors use. As well.
Okay, so something similar.
Yeah. And then it'll ask you what type of appointment you want. You can put your notes in and everything like that. Or you can even just call our front desk too if you're more. I'd
Old
rather
school.
just use a phone, right?
Yeah.
And that one's an easy one. It's 435-797-7777. So yeah,
Okay.
Easy to remember.
pretty easy.
And the Career Design Center, where is that located on campus?
Yeah, that's at the University Inn on the ground floor. So that's
Okay.
the big glass building that's right next to the TSC.
Awesome, yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that just about wraps up our time on today's episode of the CHaSS Trailheads podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation, Joseph, and I think I've gained a lot of really helpful tips and insight into ways that I can build my own resume and marketable skills going into the workforce and how to maximize the rest of my time here at USU. What about you, Porter?
Yeah, definitely. Really wish I knew about the Career Design Center before. It would have been a little bit easier than a time that I had. So definitely, to all you listeners out there, definitely give them a call. Go to their web page and sign up a time. What was that phone number again? One more time.
Yeah, it's 435-797-7777.
All right. Well, that's the number to call. Thank you so much for listening with us today, and we'll hope to see you next time.